as I developed as a professional, most salespeople are not professional salespeople. And the difference really there is the work that you do as a professional. And that's in your tonality. That's in your understanding of what it means to actively listen. And that means to, walk your prospect through an actual process. Like there's a 4-step process. And I don't need to be robotic or read a script, but I need to understand where I am and how to lead people through a decision-making process and aligning with another human via personality and being modifying to what they need versus what I am. And all kinds of experience that I gained through that I know how to. I mean, first off, I'm a personality junkie. My business partner in Gathering the Kings jokes that certain people collect, you've got collectibles, some people like to collect dishes or guns or whatever. And he says that I collect culture index profiles.
Hey, I'm Armando Leduc, producer, film actor, and owner of Leduc Entertainment. I've chosen a life off the beaten path and wanted to find others that are doing the same. Spaghetti on the Wall is a show based on all of the years that I've thrown spaghetti on the wall and nurtured what stuck. We will share fun stories, ideas, tips, tricks, and more. Welcome to Spaghetti on the Wall. Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, depending on when you are consuming this podcast. Ladies and gentlemen, we are back with another one. Chaz Wolfe is in the house. What's up, man?
Whoop, whoop. Thanks for having me, brother. Appreciate you.
Whoop. I love it. Welcome. I always like to give people a round of applause when they show up.
Yeah, it makes you feel fantastic.
It does. It does. Who doesn't like applause?
Yeah, maybe some introvert, but
yeah, that's true. It's like, okay.
No.
Can y'all please stop it?
Yeah.
Serial entrepreneur, has built 7-figure businesses, has sold and bought 7-figure. Like, you got it going on. Runs a company called Gathering the Kings, which is a mastermind where he brings in 7 to 8 to 9-figure business owners.
That's right.
That are super grateful to be where they're at, but understand that they're driven individuals.
Yeah.
And we're here. We got them here. But before we get into it, I want to ask you some questions, like some quick fire questions.
Let's go.
And I didn't send them to you ahead of time because I wanted to kind of put you on the spot. So, tell me about an unexpected hit. What's one idea or project you thought was a long shot but ended up being a huge success?
Ooh, good question. I got an email. I remember exactly where I was about a franchise that was for sale. At that time, I owned 4 Edible Arrangements locations in the Kansas City market and in the Wichita, Kansas market. And I got an email saying that there was a Florida location for sale. And I hit the reply, I'm interested button response before I even knew what happened because I'm a super opportunistic guy. And I had several people along the way going, Florida? Why Florida? My response was, it's Florida. Why not Florida? And that's been a great business for us. We still have that location. We've exited a good chunk of those, but I still have that location. Got a great team. It's a great city. And it's been a good business for us.
That's awesome. Wild card skill. What's an unusual skill or hobby you have that might surprise people?
Wild card hobby probably is easier. Actually, you know what? I'm gonna on the answer here. last spring, we did a in-person event, probably, 30 or 40 entrepreneurs, and there was a couple of us talking about Sour Patch Kids. Now, I don't eat Sour Patch Kids anymore because they don't serve me. Sugar actually doesn't serve me, so I don't eat sugar. And I really do tell myself that. And so anyway, at that time I still was, and I loved Sour Patch Kids, by far my favorite. And this other person was like, do you actually think that they're flavored? Or do you think that they're just colored and your mind does the flavoring? And I was like, oh no, I could blindfold, eat those, and I could tell you exactly which flavor. And so we did a test, and I got every single one of them wrong. But I was moving way too fast, okay? I was moving way too fast, and I was humbled is what I was, okay? And I did it again, and I really savored the moments of each one and got every single one of them right. Boom.
Nice.
Yeah. So Sour Patch,
that's an
a bill. I don't even know what that is, but there you go.
America's Got Talent written all over it. Dinner guest dilemma. If you could have dinner with any three people, dead or alive, who would make it to your guest list and why?
One would have been difficult enough. Okay, three people. I'm going to go with any one of the founding fathers. Just you pick it, that's fine. I'm going to sit there and I'm going to ask about the time leading up to the Declaration of Independence and the whole ambiance of the United States of America at that time. I'm going to go with Andrew Carnegie. And I mean, I think I can't not choose Jesus for obvious reasons. But I think if I put those three people in a room, I would be asking questions that hopefully would give me some enlightenment for today, some pretty relative enlightenment for today. But I think that those backgrounds would be so uniquely different that we could probably talk for hours, would be my guess.
Yeah, 100%. I love it. Desert Island picks. You're stranded on a desert island, and you can only take one book, one album, and one food item. What are your choices?
One book, one album, one food choice. The book is Think and Grow Rich, no doubt about it. I could read that book every month and get something different. The food item, I mean, just a whole stack of filet mignon. And then an album, like a music album?
Yeah.
I would just do a mixture of different worship music. The very first thing that came to my mind was, some mixtape that I probably made when I was 12 that had a little bit of everything, a mixed CD, actually.
There you go.
I never actually made a mixed tape. I did have some tapes, but my generation was mixed CDs.
Right. Yeah. I remember. And then the best mistake. Can you share a mistake that led to an unexpected opportunity or lesson?
Yeah. The mistake that always comes to my mind, pretty big, I lost several $100,000, is a business, one of the franchise locations that I opened up, and my wife begged me not to. And she just didn't really have a business case. That was my opinion. And I had a business case on why I should, and so I did. And I have since gone deeper in not only the understanding of what the Mastermind principle is, truly, and how that is the most, not powerful thing for just business owners, but for me and my wife. And the ability for us to be in harmony, and that there's things happening between us, and it doesn't always have to be a business case. And she was getting intuition, she was getting download, whatever she was receiving was right, and it cost me a lot of money, and I should have listened, and I didn't, but I know better now.
What was it? Can you talk about it?
Yeah. I mean, I opened a location, basically out of...
Was it Edible Arrangements?
Yeah, it was an Edible Arrangements location, and basically I was opening the location out of fear that someone else would take the location and then have access to like my delivery area. The delivery area that I kind of like had built here in the Kansas City market was one, just where the money was, and large businesses, and had a great thing happening. And there were other owners on kind of like the far side of the city that I think would have loved to have access. And this was like right where they could have opened one and then had like delivery access to the rest of my area. And I thought I was just expanding and being proactive. Truly, I guess I was being, reactive and fearful. And she begged me not to do it, and I did. And that we ended up, when I sold all of my locations, I closed that one. So it was kind of part of the deal. But it never made any money. Cost me almost $400,000 to start, and it never made money.
That's crazy. Let's so now we're into it, right? Now we're into it. Let's talk about acquiring businesses and how you got into that.
Yeah. I mean, that strand there with Edible Arrangements was it. I mean, I'm not college educated, so I don't have this background of M&A or really any understanding of business. In fact, the very first franchise that I was purchasing, it was a little bit before that, I was working with a broker, and we had been looking at purchasing a business for probably 18 or 20 months maybe. And I had looked at everything. all different types of businesses and concepts, franchise, not franchise. And I almost purchased a business that I was sitting down with the broker. I was like, hey, would you mind helping me understand this P and L? What is this? I'm 24 at the time. And looking at that business was like a $200,000 or $300,000 business. I ended up buying a $500,000 business, and I'm sure he just was like, what? Oh, my poor boy. He's an older guy and spent some time with me, and it was great. But I just, I say that to say I just have never been, there's no pedigree of business at all. I just was like, I want more, and I'm going to run hard, and I'm probably going to get, scraped up a little bit, and I'm okay with that. And so I went from one location to then 6 months later purchased a second location. So it was 2 purchases. And a year later opened up a brand new one. A year later opened up a brand new one 3 hours away. And a year later, so out the 4-year mark, I opened up one in that same market 3 hours away. I opened up one in Kansas City. That was the one I told you that didn't do so good. And then I also bought that one in Florida that I also told you about. So within 4 years, I'd gone 7 locations, 65-ish employees. On the holidays, like Mother's Day, Valentine's Day, we have 500, 600 employees for that week. And I was all in my 20s. And so we've since done a lot with real estate acquisitions and selling. And I've exited some of those edible franchises. And we've started a bunch of new businesses. But that's kind of been the portfolio, if you will.
Why the edible arrangements? Why that over everything else?
Yeah, great question. It was a business that made sense to me at that time. I was 24, about to turn 25. I already had a 6-figure plus deal as a sales leader. And so I was leaving quite a bit of money in corporate America and wanted a system that I could follow. So the franchise itself kind of gave me some, ability to feel confident, I guess. What I was super confident in was my ability to market and to sell. And so I knew that if I had purchased this location, that I could grow it by calling businesses and doing employee gifts or, customer retention gifts. And I could grow accounts like that through my already deep sales experience. As far as like running an actual business or other type things that I didn't think I could do, like maybe the trades, like I've never been really handy. Even though I own a construction company now, at that time, I knew I could learn how to cut fruit. If I needed to cut fruit, I could learn how to do it, which obviously I did, and I've cut plenty of fruit. I've cleaned plenty of toilets. But over the course of that time, it was just the confidence of being able to leave my current situation, and it just happened to work.
What makes a good salesperson?
Yeah, great question. I think that there are several components of that. When I was early in my sales career, it was just grit, just the ability and willingness to freaking pick up the phone and get my teeth kicked in all day. And eventually you just do enough, you just take enough action to where you get a little bit of result and you're like, ooh, I really liked that. The whole kicking in my teeth didn't feel very good, but I really liked that sale. And I really like that commission, and so I'm going to try it again. As I developed as a professional, most salespeople are not professional salespeople. And the difference really there is the work that you do as a professional. And that's in your tonality. That's in your understanding of what it means to actively listen. And that means to, walk your prospect through an actual process. Like there's a 4-step process. And I don't need to be robotic or read a script, but I need to understand where I am and how to lead people through a decision-making process and aligning with another human via personality and modifying to what they need versus what I am. And all kinds of experience that I gained through that I know how to. First off, I'm a personality junkie. My business partner in Gathering the Kings jokes that certain people collect, you've got collectibles, some people like to collect dishes or guns or whatever. And he says that I collect culture index profiles. It's like,
so are you big on assessments?
Big on assessments. Cause I can make moves. I'm a chess player, and if I know the detail,
Talk
then
to
I can
me
move
about
things
that.
around.
Talk to me about assessments because I love it. What do you follow? The DISC, Colby?
Culture Index is the assessment that we use, and I have just found that not only just the expression of what they survey, but then also the accuracy of that's just the one we've rolled with. I'm familiar with most of them. There's also a bunch of free resources for people who are listening right now who can't maybe afford the level of Culture Index. DISC is actually pretty affordable as well. But for me, it's like if I can understand me first, right? Like that's personal development. 101, self-awareness. Pull back the veil and like look at yourself in the mirror.
Yeah.
And if I can understand how I am wired or how my cake is baked, then I can modify those things, not because I'm trying to be a facade or faux or not genuine, but that's, in my opinion, that's real leadership. If I can come to the table and deliver information in the way that the person I'm talking to needs it, that's just a phenomenal leadership, in my opinion. Rather than the opposite is, look, you either like me or you don't. Either way, whatever, And there's an understanding of like being authentic, especially as a podcaster or whatever. And it's like, I'm just going to share me and be free in that. And I think that that's completely fine. But when you're leading people or when you're leading people through a sales process, you want to win or do you want to be right? Because I'm just going to be me and y'all figure out the rest is being right. Like you're just you and you're right. Cool, fine. I like to win though.
Yeah. It's so crazy when we started moving towards personal branding as a company, how, part of this whole personal branding journey that people go on is the first part of it is breaking the chains of imposter syndrome.
Oh, yeah.
Right?
Oh, yeah.
And so we've been using the assessments as a way to let people be comfortable with their superpower.
Sure.
Right? And stop living in the shame of doing things because maybe of how they grew up and what they were sort of forced into. Right. And maybe they've been living this complete lie of who they are because, maybe they would be totally the right person to live at this 30,000 foot view. And yet they're stuck doing the details and the micro level when they should be operating in macro. And because they're not doing well in this micro level and they're not even aware of being their assessment and who they are, they're living this sort of lie, right? They're and not living unapologetically and authentically,
sure.
Right?
Yeah.
And when you don't know who you are, it's difficult to maneuver life.
Oh yeah, yeah. There's freedom, is in essence what you're saying. When you have somebody read back to you, I read people's mail like just scary accurate, and you're like, this is you, and they're like, dude, I've never had anybody say it like that before, but you're right. I am. And it's like, okay, cool. Well, so now that we know that, what do we do with it? Right. And I think that's just personal development in a nutshell is once I now know I have a new level of understanding, I can now take different action. Whether that's me leading another person or, figuring out what place in the business makes sense for me or whatever, like me and my spouse, I can absolutely go to another level in my marriage if I not only understand myself, but understand who my wife is, like genuinely, and not be offended by the things like, oh, that's just how she's wired. Now she can be working on stuff, and I don't need to like brush it away, and she can just treat me however. But you give space for people. I had a guy on my show, I don't know, like maybe 2 or 3 months ago, and the name of his company is Happy, and they currently only work with DISC. I'm like, bro, there's like so many others we got to get you working with. But he has an AI tool that, like Armando's got a certain profile on the DISC, and I've got a certain profile on the DISC, and we've got a meeting here today at noon. And so his software tells you and me how best to prepare for our meeting with each other based on our DISC profile. Yes.
Hold on, I need to write it down.
Yeah, Happy.
I'm gonna write this down.
Yeah, his show just came out on
Happy.
Yeah, Happy. Happy to make I'd happy to make an introduction for you.
Happy, make that introduction. I love that. It's just happy.com. How did he get?
I don't know about that. But the name of his company is Happy.
Okay.
I think they've been around for 2 or 3 years now. Like he's kind of on the cutting edge of AI and software. And anyway, really great guy. But this is the benefit of not only do I know you, but if I can prepare, right? If I know Armando is super detailed, then what do I need to come to the meeting with? Bullet points and a lot of information, all the intricacies. But if he's not, if he's high level, then me bringing my spreadsheet of all the things I've been working on for the last, 18 hours in detail, minute by minute, no bueno.
Right. Dude, I love that so much. This is why I do podcasts, because one thing could just change the entire game. Like one thing. I had a girl on my podcast, a lawyer from Baton Rouge, said that she does a 4-day work week. And I was like, how's that working out for you? And she's like, it's amazing. And I was like, great. And so we started implementing the 4-day work week in January of this year.
Okay.
So we're rolling into, month 5. And it's been great. Like everybody's just happy to be here.
Wow.
We get like everybody's so much more productive. It's just been game changing.
Wow.
Yeah. So and we've been doing the 4-day work week. So that like I said, one thing can just change the whole game. So this whole I'm looking into happy after we get off this call for sure.
Yeah. Okay.
But yeah, I love the assessments. I had to apologize to my sister, who's my project manager, and she's older than me.
Uh-oh.
And do you know the 6 types of working genius?
Oh yeah. Yeah. I'm certified.
Oh, cool. So she's high on discernment
Okay.
and high on tenacity.
Yeah.
I'm high on invention and galvanizing,
Yeah.
right? And so every time we're talking, I'm like, dude, why is it that every time I have an idea, you're just shooting it
Ball
down?
and nose.
And I'm like, and then I read the book and I was just like, oh, you got discernment. Got it. Okay. Yeah. So now, and now we have that understanding. My wife also is high on discernment. My COO, high on discernment. When I'm like, hallelujah, I have these people around me, and that I do understand how we mesh together, which is really awesome. So you're big on the assessments. Do can you tell like within 5-10 minutes what that person is?
Oh, at this point, yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, maybe not down to the exact profile, but pretty darn close. Yeah, for sure. Yeah. It doesn't take many
questions. Do you have like a set of questions that you ask?
Yeah. Well, so Culture Index is built on 4 main components, maybe 6, but it's autonomy, social ability, pace, and conformity. There's also logic and ingenuity, but between those 4 things, so autonomy, I can ask you some questions around your desire to do your own thing, or the fact that you're an entrepreneur. I already know most likely that you are a person that has high autonomy requirement. You and I, we got on our show together and we had a great time, and I could tell for the most part that you were probably pretty social. Now, in an environment like a podcast, it's kind of a forced social, so I don't really know, but I can generally tell, like if someone's introverted and I'm pulling it out of them, or if we're just like vibing back and forth because they're an extrovert. And so I could already tell that you were an extrovert. As far as pace, you've got like slow or methodical or deliberate, or you've got urgent. And like there's been several times even in this show, which I did it to you as well, but you wanted to say something and you're like, and you waited for me to finish. And then as soon as I finished, you took off, which is great. So I know that you have an urgent pace. And as far as conformity goes, conformity is you're a rule follower, and there's structure, there's rules in place for a reason, there's safety in that. There's a system. Nonconformity is rules are suggestions and probably for other people. And there's been a lot of things that in just our natural conversation that leads me to believe that you're probably a nonconformist, and that rules are suggestions. That whole piece that you just described about your working geniuses, I'm like, yeah, it's probably pretty accurate.
So my sister and I've told her, hey, we're gonna work out with this boxing coach, and she's just like, all right, fine, But she works with me, so I'm like, don't take off. We're gonna do this, right?
Yeah.
She hates how I drive, right?
Oh,
like she's like, you haven't stopped at a stop sign, yet, not once. I'm like, yes, I did. She's like, no, you didn't. A stop means you stop
all the way.
She's like complete rule follower.
Yes.
And I'm like opposite, which is great. I love that she's, here, because we really do just
totally
fill in the blanks.
Yeah. And when you know that, whether it's, a CEO, a COO, business partner, marriage, like then it's just like, okay, this is cool. I can have freedom to be me. She can have freedom to be her, or vice versa. And we can also support each other in that, because your strengths are likely her weaknesses.
Yeah. So you consult.
Yeah, I mean, we use it inside of our membership, right? And so Gathering the Kings is a mastermind for entrepreneurs, really of all different types of industries, but they're ones that want to win in all areas of life. We call it the exceptional life. And it's, in my opinion, I've already given several examples here, but that's just one tool that we use for our members to not only be able to look at the team members on their business, like in their business, make sure that they're on the right seat. As they're hiring new people, making sure that they're hiring the right profile for this very specific job, and that way it's specific. It's that we're making exact moves, not just like whimming, like, hey, I felt good about that interview, and just winging it, but all the way over to marriage, or all the other parts of life. And so that's just Culture Index is one of the tools that we can help our members, win in all areas.
So talk to me about it. Let's get into that. The Gathering the Kings. When did you start this? Why did you start this? How did you start this?
Yeah, great question. We started at the top of 22, and I had been a part of some coaching groups, and I find value in that. Spent a lot of money in different coaching groups, and I just was really frustrated because I couldn't find what I believed to be an actual mastermind, like a real, by the definition, in Think and Grow Rich, Napoleon Hill defines mastermind as two or more minds working in harmony unto the achievement of a definite chief aim. And group coaching is great, but it's basically one singular person that has an opinion, and everybody's listening to that person, which is fine. I've spent money on that. That's valuable. That's not a mastermind. And so inside of that structure, I went to the whiteboard and was like, all right, what would I want? And I drew out different ways that entrepreneurs could connect on a weekly or monthly, quarterly, biannual basis, some on virtual, some in person. And what could we bring to the table, and what would be unique? And we launched. So we launched in January of 22, same time we launched our podcast, actually. And really it's been all organic, all pretty curated. Like, I still, to this day, like, if you want to join, I'm going to get on a call with you personally, because the environment is really, really important. That harmony piece that Napoleon Hill talks about is the juice, because if you have discord of any kind, a real mastermind doesn't work. And so if we all know that we're genuinely trying to live the exceptional life, and we define that as winning in all areas, then that means that I'm opening up different parts of my life to the people that are around me, and I'm wanting them to help me win in this area. And that might be encouragement, it might be connections, it might be a little bit of tough love, it might just be, carrying the loss, carrying the win, celebrating with each other. There's all different types of ways that we can do that harmony piece, but doing community well is not really what a lot of people do well. And so we're just trying to do community well, if that makes sense.
So what are some of the, and I think maybe you just touched on some of that. Do you have like a 5, 6, 7 prong approach, like spirituality, fitness, relationships? Like what are those?
Yeah, everybody's got their 5 prongs, right? Our 5 dimensions of kingship are business and finance, marriage and family, faith, which is not only spiritual but belief in self. It's health, mental and physical, and then lifestyle. We define lifestyle as tangible and intangible, the things that bring us joy. I just believe that when you win in all of those areas, the exceptional life is what you have.
And how many people are involved right now?
Yeah, we got about 60, 62, something like that. For a long time, we were, 7 figures and above only. We've just recently opened up like a smaller rung of membership to smaller business owners, but I would say the vast majority of those 62, like probably 55, are 7, 8, and even 9-figure business owners. And really, just it's pretty cool because there's not just big business owners, someone do 20 million or whatever. It's somebody who is like humble enough to recognize that they don't have it all yet, and that they still have a desire for more. And the desire for more doesn't come from a place of greed, but it comes from a place of, I'm not done yet. And there's still more to go. There's like more of my potential that hasn't been used, or there's more people I need to help, or, there's just more to this thing. And so that's really the connection point in all of us. I mean, there's different industries and different backgrounds, and a lot of most entrepreneurs, most successful business owners are all first generation wealth. But I would say that's probably pretty accurate for our group as well. A lot of people who have come into success and gone like, okay, well, what is this going to look like for my family? What's it going to look like for my kids, right? Because I didn't grow up in any money, and they didn't grow up in any money, and so we're having conversations around like, how do we facilitate environments for our children so they don't have a silver spoon, but at the same time, don't have to like exactly repeat all the things that I already figured out. What's the best route here, as well as all the other things, sales and marketing and all this stuff.
Yeah. I was just having a conversation with somebody about that, like kids, and like the journey.
Yeah.
And it's like, I've got a 4-year. How many kids do you have?
I have 4, 10, 8, 4, and 2.
Right. So how do you get them to listen, right? Because like some, and maybe that's a personality thing, right? Some are going to be rule followers, but like my daughter, who is nonconformist, I'm sure, she's going to hit some brick walls, right? Yeah. Like I could tell her not to do something, but I think she's going to have the same problem that I had, is like, no, I have to go through it.
Right.
To really understand it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, there's several components here. I mean, I think before 8-ish, your child is completely subconscious. Like there's no consciousness. And so how do you train your subconscious mind? Well, there's, books that can teach you how to do this, but it's through repetition. And so up until they're 8, I have an immense persistence to, here's exactly what we're doing. Here's exactly why we're doing it. And here's the exact expectation. And here's how it looks. And when my son, who's 4, about to turn 5, agrees, looks me in the eyes and agrees and is cool. Yes, Daddy, we're good to go. And then 6.5 minutes later is doing the exact thing that I just asked him not to. I sit down and I do it again, because that's how you train that level. Right. Is through repetition. And really, I feel like that's probably the biggest downfall with parents, especially with entrepreneurs, because, we've got a lot going on. And really, most entrepreneurs are probably that nonconformist, because that's why they're an entrepreneur. Like, forget y'all, I'm doing my own thing. And so as a nonconformist, you lack persistence probably, or follow through. And there's just some nitty gritty that it takes in training your child, training anything really. And so really once they turn 8 or a little more, we can start developing a little bit. There's a little personality starting to come out, and some consciousness and some thought, where we're just not just like, oh my gosh, how did you do that? Why did you do that? But there's still like patience towards, I'm molding this human. And I guess I just take the long approach, just like I do with business at this point. When I was younger, it was like, let's go fast. Let's do everything right now. And that's just not how it works. And that's not how it's going to work with my children either. They're putty in my hands, and I'm molding them. I'm building each little piece as we go, including recognizing their strengths and weaknesses. My oldest, who's definitely a rule follower, but the whole idea of follow through and closing loops, maybe it's just because she's 10, or maybe it's because she's leaning into a little bit of nonconformity. I don't know, but I've recognized over the last 6 months that there's a lot of open loops. I can tell JC has been here. Okay, great. So I have a consciousness of this trend. And so I start not nitpicking, but I start showing her, hey, this is right here is an open loop. Next time when you do this, all you have to do is then close the cupboard when you're done with it, or whatever the open loop is. And helping her be aware, right? We go back to personal development. What is personal development? Self-awareness. Recognizing the things that you do and don't do, and why it's either helping or harming you, and then choose to do differently.
On that note, hallelujah, man. Thank you, dude. Such a beautiful person, such a beautiful mind. I really appreciate you being here.
Yeah, man.
Such a good interview. I get so much. I really do. Just love doing podcasts. Love digging deep and figuring out why people do what they do. And you really got some really good stuff going on. So, Chaz, tell people where they can find you.
Yeah, gatheringthekings.com is an easy place. And if you're a business owner that is grateful but not done, there are many of them like you out there, and we want to run hard and win in all areas with you.
Love it. Guys, check him out. Check out his podcast. His podcast is great.
We had a really cool guest recently. His name is Armando.
Yeah. That's me. Did you get Joey Coleman?
I think we're in the talks. Yes.
Oh, good.
The team's been talking with a few of those folks that you sent over. So that's amazing.
That's a great dude, man. Yeah. So, all right. I appreciate you being here.
Thanks, man. I appreciate the opportunity.
And we're going to roll out. And that was Spaghetti on the Wall, brought to you by Leduc Entertainment. For all of your digital marketing needs, personal branding, podcasts, we got you. And you can catch us anywhere. You're probably listening to it right now. So keep listening, and we'll see y'all next time.